Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Geezerology. Today, Bob is going to talk about an old friend of his who's just made some new music. Bob has been friends with the Winter brothers for a few years, as I understand it. And Edgar has just released an album called Brother Johnny. It was released on April 15th of 2022. And this is a tribute to his late brother, Johnny Winter, who passed a few years ago. And Edgar brought in a whole bunch of guest artists to pay tribute to his brother, Johnny. And Bob has spent some time with it in the last few days, and he's going to tell us all about it. Take it away, Bobby.
All right. Thank you, Scotty. So Johnny Winter, blues rock guitarist extraordinaire, passed away in 2014 at age 70. His brother Edgar had a separate career that just as outstanding as his brother Johnny. So Edgar has put together a tribute album to his brother Johnny titled Brother Johnny. Now, let me say this. I am not normally a fan of tribute albums. A lot of times they seem kind of disjointed and occasionally really don't work well. This is a delightful exception to that. This is a tremendous album, and I think it shows a lot of love from Edgar toward his late brother. And this tribute album has a consistency to it that's missing from a lot of tribute albums. And that's because Edgar appears on virtually every track on this album, either doing lead vocals or piano, organ, saxophone, clavinet. But anyway, I think with the exception of one track, he is on every one of these. So Edgar's presence lends a continuity here. Also, the rhythm section, Edgar assembled a rhythm section that is on virtually, again, every track. They only have one drummer who appears on every track with the exception of one, which has Ringo Starr as a guest drummer. And then they used two bass players for the entire album. So there's a consistency with a rhythm section from song to song. So we have a consistent rhythm section. We have Edgar Winter as a consistent presence. And then, pardon the cliche, but a veritable who's who of stellar musicians from the blues, blues rock, and rock genres appearing on this album. Many of them stellar guitarists. They include Joe Bonamassa, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Keb Mo, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, Derek Trucks, Joe Walsh, David Grissom, Michael McDonald, as I mentioned, Ringo Starr, percussionist Kenny Aronhoff, John McPhee from the Doobie Brothers, Steve Lukather, Doyle Bramhall II, Phil X from Bon Jovi, Waddy Wachtel, poignantly, the late Taylor Hawkins, who just died a few weeks before this album was released. And of course, Taylor Hawkins was with the Foo Fighters, then Warren Haynes and Robin Ford. So this is an A-list of performers. The album has 17 tracks and it clocks out at 76 minutes. So it's a pretty gargantuan effort. Of those 17 tracks, 5 of the tunes are Johnny Winter original tunes: Meantown Blues, I'm Yours and I'm Hers, Stranger, Guess I'll Go Away, and Self-Destructive Blues. And then, kind of ironically, we get covers of covers, because some in Johnny Winter's repertoire were covers of a lot of other people's songs that he had made his own, much like Joe Cocker does. That includes a couple tunes from Rick Derringer, Still Alive and Well, and Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. And if you know Johnny Winter and Edgar Winter, you know that Rick Derringer had a long-time relationship with both of those performers. We get a couple Edgar Winter tunes on here, Lone Star Blues and End of the Line. Then we get some classic blues tunes, Got My Mojo Working, Stormy Monday Blues, Drown in My Own Tears, and then some tunes from other people, Jumpin' Jack Flash from the Rolling Stones. When You've Got a Good Friend, an old blues classic from Robert Johnson, Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited, and then another tune that Johnny Winter made one of his own, Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. And for the most part, this is a rocking album. The tunes just take off, starting with the very first track, Meantown Blues, which features some incredible guitar work from Joe Bonamassa. But then we also have some slower material on here. Keb Mo does a great acoustic blues thing on here. Doyle Bramhall II does another acoustic type thing where he does all of the guitars and everything on the track. Edgar comes back with horns and stuff on When You've Got a Good Friend. And then we close out the album with a tune with a string quartet on it. So we got some variety in here, although it does mainly tend to, hard driving blues rock. Tremendous album. I can't recommend it enough. I think that if you appreciate blues and the blues rock genre, and if you recognize just what an incredible performer Johnny Winter was, then you will really, really appreciate this tribute album. In addition to being brothers, Johnny and Edgar contributed to each other's careers. Edgar performed on Johnny's first two albums. Edgar performed at Woodstock on stage with Johnny. And then, of course, Edgar had his own career path with the Edgar Winter Group and then the band he put together called White Trash. But their paths merged and intertwined throughout their lives, and they would drift in and out of each other's career paths. So I think you can really feel the love here that Edgar had for his brother. Edgar and Johnny are both, in my opinion, tremendous musicians. Johnny was very much into that blues and blues rock genre. Edgar did blues and blues rock, but he also ventured into some more soul paths and stuff. So, but both, in my opinion, stellar musicians. I had the bittersweet experience of seeing Johnny Winter perform live in September 2013 at the Roots and Blues Festival in Columbia, Missouri. And I've long been a fan of Johnny Winter. I've got a ton of his albums. And so I was really excited to see him perform. And this was just, 9 months before he passed away in Switzerland. And the performance was stellar. His guitar work was great, but Johnny was incredibly frail and couldn't walk across the stage without assistance. In fact, two people had to be on either side of him helping him walk across the stage. He spent the entire concert, seated in a chair playing because he didn't have the stamina to stand. So it was very bittersweet to see him, knowing that this was the tail end of his life, and then contrasting it to the vibrancy of his performances, when he was younger and his health was better. But it was still a memorable experience, and I treasure having finally had the opportunity to see him, before he passed away. Johnny's life was marred by serious issues with drug abuse, particularly heroin. And then, ironically, he got off heroin, but then suffered a serious methadone addiction. With the assistance of some very good friends and stuff, he managed to, in the last few years, get his life back on track and was able to continue on as a performer. And in fact, passed away just 2 days after his final performance. So to his credit, the man went out doing what he loved and what he was so great at. So anyway, to sum it up, I think it's a tremendous album. I really encourage you to check it out. There are some stellar performances on here. And as a tribute album, this one excels. And if you like blues and blues rock genre, you have to recognize Johnny Winter's contributions to that style of music. So again, encourage you to listen to it. I think it's a tremendous effort.
Yeah, I remember Johnny in particular, and even Edgar. I mean, both their careers seemed to hit at least a commercial peak at about the same time. It was like in the mid 70s, late 70s, somewhere in there. And yeah, I do remember where both of them, for at least a couple of years, both of them were really at the top of their game. The concert memory that you have of Johnny sounds a whole lot like the recent Phil Collins story.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. I'm not really familiar with either one of these, but was Johnny more of a cover artist than he was somebody who wrote his own songs? Or
Yeah.
because when you told me yesterday that you wanted to review this album, I went looking for info on it, and I saw the track listing, and the track listing is mostly covers, which left that question in my mind. Why, what makes this a Johnny Winter tribute album? And is that the answer?
Partially, yeah. Like I say, there are 5 tunes on here that are, Johnny Winter originals. But Johnny was probably best known for some cover versions. Not only did he do a lot of classic blues songs, but like I say, he did a dynamite version of Highway 61 Revisited, Johnny Be Good, Jumpin' Jack Flash. Those were all concert staples.
Okay, so these kind of became signature tunes for him.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's particularly on some of his live albums. And one of his better known live albums was called Johnny Winter and he called his band And. So it was Johnny Winter and that was, his touring band. And they released a live album, and a lot of these tunes were on there. And yeah, so they became some of his signature tunes, these cover versions. So yeah, and so that's why I said it's kind of honor. We get covers of covers, but right, much like Joe Cocker, they kind of became signature.
Right. I mean, you can do a cover of With a Little Help from My Friends, but are you going to cover the Beatles with a little help from my friends, or Joe Cocker's with a little help from my
exactly?
friends?
Yeah. So here we're covering Johnny Winter's versions of those songs,
right,
and recognizing them as some of his signature tunes, even though they weren't necessarily his original songs.
Yeah.
Now, the one question I have, and I haven't I found an answer to it yet, is I'm kind of surprised that Rick Derringer wasn't invited to be on this album, because he had such a significant presence, with both of those performers. And, Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo and Still Alive and Well were tunes from Derringer that both brothers, used extensively in their careers. And Rick Derringer was on the Edgar Winter live album Roadwork, and Rick Derringer, was with Johnny Winter for several years. So I'm kind of surprised that Rick Derringer wasn't invited to be part of this. And,
well, just to be fair and to be clarified, do we know he wasn't invited, or do we just know that he wasn't there?
We know he wasn't there. I don't know why he wasn't there. So
okay. But he may have been invited.
He may have been. I don't know. This album just dropped April 15th, and I knew it was coming. But
there's not a whole lot of information out there about this album. I couldn't find much about it.
There really isn't. So I just thought it was significant that Rick Derringer wasn't there. Now why he wasn't,
right. We know that. We don't know that he wasn't invited. I mean, by saying he wasn't invited, that could imply that there was some bad blood there or something like that.
Yeah.
It could be he was invited and I just couldn't work it out or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just noting that I thought it was interesting that he's not there. Why he isn't, I don't know. So and I don't know the history, whether there's history there or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, but like I say, I think it's a great album. Of course, I'm going to like it because I like blues and blues rock, and I like guitar-oriented music, and they do have some incredible performers on here.
And I do see that this album is on YouTube Music, which is my current streaming platform. So I assume that it's widely available in all the streaming services, and you can probably buy it on CD or whatever.
You can get it on CD, and I have it on Apple Music, so I'm assuming that it's on the other services too.
Yeah. But I'll give it a listen and check it out. And yep, you should too. Bob seems to love it a lot, so that means it's probably a pretty good album. So go check it out, everybody.
Well, don't take my word for it. Check it out yourself.
Bob's standards on the basic blue rock stuff is pretty high, as we know. So so thanks for that, Bob. Thanks for telling us about that album. Everybody, check it out. Thanks for listening to us. And we'll be back soon with some more roundtables, with some more reviews, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.